The enormous Azovstal industrial complex in Mariupol, as filmed by us just 3 months ago. Once upon a time, one of Europe's largest steel plants, 4.5 square miles of factory. Along with the port, the city's economic beating heart. Back when the plumes were just from production. Now a giant, battered barricade, a pocket of resistance, surrounded by a city all but completely under Russian control. Today, the Russian defense minister, previously assumed missing in political action, declared victory in Mariupol. There was something of the schoolboy in teacher's office feel to the televised meeting between Sergei Shoigu and his boss. The headmaster's instructions: don't storm the steel plant, make it a tomb.
Предлагаемый штурм промышленной зоны считаю нецелесообразным. Приказываю отменить. Это тот случай, когда мы должны думать, то есть мы всегда должны думать, но в данном случае тем более, о сохранении жизни и здоровья наших солдат и офицеров. Не нужно лезть в эти катакомбы и ползать там под землей по этим промышленным объектам. Заблокируйте эту промышленную зону так, чтобы муха не пролетела.
The industrial complex on Mariupol's left bank sprawls over 4 square miles. It's a warren of tunnels and industrial buildings. Urban warfare here would be not so much street by street as pipeline by pipeline. City officials say there are about 1,000 civilians sheltering in the steelworks. The Russians say that some 2,000 troops are holed up there as well, a number disputed by the Ukrainians. Moscow has said civilians are being used as human shields, and today we put those claims to one of the military commanders still inside the complex.
Ми не живемо разом з цивільними, цивільні живуть окремо від нас. Це робиться для того, ми свідомо це робимо, тому щоб не підвергати так життя цивільних небезпеці. Тому що якщо поряд з цивільними будуть жити військові, Російська Федерація скаже, що скидала бомби на військових. Цього ми не можемо допустити.
We also asked him to respond to Moscow's declaration of victory in Mariupol.
Чи впаде Маріуполь? Поки ми тут, ми до останнього патрона будемо захищати це місто.
Whatever about the last bullet at the steelworks, the Ukrainian military won't run out of ammunition anytime soon. Today, President Biden announced an $800 million package of military assistance. Moscow's decision to back away from a messy battle of Azovstal is probably to do with avoiding casualties, may also be informed though by economics and salvaging what's left at the plant. But also Vladimir Putin now desperately needs a win. Or at the very least, something that looks like one.
Well, there were some civilians who've managed to get out of Mariupol after spending almost 2 months in a city that had become their besieged prison. A small convoy of buses arrived today in Zaporizhia, where our international editor, Lindsay Hilson, was there to meet them, and where she joins us from now. Lindsay.
It's unimaginable, isn't it, Matt, what these civilians have been going through. And even though the Russians say they're not going to carry on bombarding that steel plant, well, I'm not completely sure that the war is really over in Mariupol. Western officials say there are still 5,000 to 10,000 Russian troops in the area. They want to move them up so that they can take part in this attack on the rest of the Donbass. But as long as those Ukrainian fighters are still holding out, they're not going to be able to take all of them away from there. And if the Ukrainians still have weapons in there, they're going to carry on trying to resist. Well, all of this makes the life of civilians in Mariupol incredibly impossible, really. And the Russians are still not letting aid come in, humanitarian aid come in from the Ukrainian side. Now, I don't know how many people watching are the parents of teenagers or are teenagers themselves, but there are teenagers there in Mariupol. And today we spoke to some of them who've just got out. The first of just 3 buses. Only 76 people, not the 6,000 the Ukrainians had hoped could be rescued from Mariupol. The Russians finally let them leave yesterday. Tears of relief after 2 months of hell. 2 months of hiding in bunkers, fearing for their lives every day. Glory to Ukraine, he cries. Safe at last. Is your family all right? Tell me what's happened to your family.
Ну, маму ранило вследствие прилетов в квартиру 2 снарядов. Ну, она жива, цела, здорова, с ней уже все хорошо. А бабушку чуть-чуть ранило вследствие тоже прихода в дом. И все живы, здоровы, все хорошо. Я с братом только приехал и все. Вот.
Bogdan is 17, his brother Ruslan a year younger. They'd just avoided being conscripted by the Russians, who interrogated them.
Фильтрация — это, конечно, полностью раздеваемся до трусов, штаны снимаем, все снимаем, все документы, каждую бумажку проверяют, чтобы там ничего не было. Вопросы про что ты знаешь про Азов, что про ВСУ, что про тероборону и в таком темпе. Если тебе, видимо, больше 18 лет и ты призывного возраста, забирают.
Their identities are checked by the Ukrainians too, but this is an altogether more gentle experience after the horror they witnessed in Mariupol.
Сейчас очень много во дворах могил закопанных, где может быть по 30 человек, по 20, возле дома просто много разрушенных домов, просто плиты валяются от квартир, вот. Дома все черные, сгоревшие.
Anastasia's brother has come to meet her. She's 17 and travelled alone. Her parents stayed behind. They were more afraid of leaving than staying, she said. The old suffered because they were frail, and many because they were poor and couldn't leave earlier as they didn't have a car. But maybe it was even more terrifying for the young, who only know war as a computer game or the news from somewhere else on TV.
Мы сначала были в одном убежище, потом нас переселили в другое, так как то загорелось. И потом тоже прошлое загорелось тоже убежище, и нас в третье переселили. И потом пришли русские военные и сказали нам эвакуироваться, потому что, как они говорили, будет ближний бой, и нам пришлось куда-то убегать.
Mykola and Alexander are brothers. They made friends with Romana in the shelter. Sometimes they saw the Russians, and sometimes just heard the stories.
Им было все равно, дети мы или нет, они могли крикнуть лишний раз.
Мы кричали часто, да. И вообще грубо говорили, даже иногда матюкались, да. Вот так.
Некоторые из них были, нормально относились к людям, а в основном они плохо относились.
Мы слышали о нескольких случаях, так сказать, преступлений с их стороны. Много раз слышали о том, что они мародерят в квартирах. Да, просто так убивают людей, даже о попытках изнасилования.
They had a big secret to keep. Their fathers are Ukrainian soldiers. They kept quiet and eventually escaped with their mothers. The arrivals from Mariupol are given warm clothes and food. Bogdan and Ruslan fell on theirs, as if it was the first hot meal they'd had in months. Maybe it was. They've left behind several hundred fighters and about 100,000 civilians, as well as the world they've known and loved, now lying in ruins.